So now let's go ahead and begin. Welcome everyone. My name is Carlos Acosta. I am the career specialist here at Jacksonville State University in our Office of Career Services. I want to thank you for joining us today as we discuss internships in a COVID-19 world. We are joined today by Ms. Marianne Gomez Horta, President and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, and Ms. Caterina Rangel, Head of Admissions for the Intern Group. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So I just
Thank you
want
so much for having us.
so this year, the world was hit by the coronavirus pandemic or COVID-19. Since January of this year, the global economy has changed. The way we interact with our friends, family, and coworkers has taken on new meaning. We practice physical distancing, but we still must remain social. And so the growth in social media and video conferencing usage has increased significantly, even now to the point where many people are fatigued by the use of social media and other video conferencing tools. I want to talk about internships today because internships are a crucial part to the development process for any student trying to develop those professional development skills. But first, I want to discuss the job market. Since COVID-19, we have seen certain industries fall on harder times than others. These industries include our airline industries, our retails, hotels, restaurants, and anything within the service community. Some buildings, some retail spaces continue to lose business, a lot of our mom and pop shops, as we refer to them, while many others that are much larger have shifted to a non-traditional basis onto technology where they've been selling more and more online. Still, these industries tend to lose thousands of jobs each day. As the jobs are lost in these sectors, jobs are being added in other sectors, mainly technology and healthcare. And there is a fine line that we must walk now between closures and reopenings on a state-by-state basis. So I want to talk about how internships fit into this equation. First, I'd like to bring in our guests and try to discuss the internships and how much of a crucial part they are to the training process. Marianne, we'll start with you. Prior to COVID, your organization worked to place students both at a legislative level and with corporate sponsors, I believe. And so coronavirus hits. What is going through your mind as someone who is in charge of an organization, a nonprofit organization such as yours that's bringing in students and placing them? What was your thought process? What were you thinking when you first heard the news that things were going to be shutting down and you had to sort of handle and work with your students?
So thank you, Carlos, for the opportunity. Thank you for this discussion. One of the very first things that came to mind is, oh dear Lord, what do we do with the students? How do we support the students? We have at the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, our core flagship program is our internship program, our Global Leaders Internship Program. And as you mentioned, Carlos, it is basically the interns spend half of a semester interning for a member of Congress on the Hill live here in Washington, D.C. And the second half is they work in a government affairs or lobbying shop with a company in Washington, D.C. The idea is that we give them the public sector perspective and the private sector perspective. When we got the orders from the Washington, D.C. That we had to shut down, it was literally like March 11th, March 12th, and we already had students here. Mm-hmm. So we had to figure out, what do we do? We had to coordinate with the members of Congress. We had to coordinate with their incoming corporate placement supervisors. We had some of those supervisors who said, we've never done a virtual program. We don't even know what we're going to be doing. So, it's one of those situations where what I think kind of comes out of it is like what we've seen that Americans are really good at, right? There are times when we're scared about what's going to happen or what could happen, but when something like this does happen, even with a natural disaster, is we just come together. We're just like, how do we help each other? Who's been through something similar? Who's got some protocols in place? The executive committee was on it. We had several calls to figure out what do we do, how do we help the students, and the beauty of it, I think that just our human being, our human nature is just to take care of each other first. And honestly, that's kind of what we did. We were able to quickly pivot to doing a virtual program for the interns. And then for my staff, I just basically told them, we huddled in the office and I told them, take supplies home. We don't know when we're coming back. So take some paper, take some pens, take the staplers, let's do. So that was kind of our initial, reaction to things.
Katerina, I'm sorry. What was your reaction when you heard the news, knowing that the intern group has students all around the world? What was the reaction of the organization? How did you guys come together?
Yeah, absolutely. And our flagship program is international internships. It's like our bread and butter is to, take people around the world to our 14 different destinations and help them realize their potential. So a huge aspect of our flagship program is that cross-cultural, immersion. So, when COVID hit back in January, we immediately knew that we were no longer going to be able to send our applicants to our program in Shanghai. So our Shanghai program was one of the first ones to really close down, and we started moving applicants both out of country and then applicants who are going to be going into that program, looking at different destinations that would have been appropriate for them. And then when everything kind of went into lockdown coming into March, April, and we had students who were in these different destinations, it was our experience team that was on the ground with these interns, basically helping them get back to their home countries, especially before, a lot of the borders were closing. So it was also seeing let's get people back home. We had to have a lot of care in terms of making sure that people were also socially distancing, using masks, making sure none of our interns, got COVID-19. And then make sure they got home safely to their countries. And then from there, a lot of them, we were able to actually keep them interning with the host organizations that they had already been matched with in these different countries. So we had interns who were returning home to New York from Spain in different parts, and they actually were able to keep going with their internship. And then from there, it was just looking at a lot of different options if we were going to be able to really focus on domestic internships. And we did have some applicants doing domestic for a little bit. But then when it became very apparent that travel was just not going to be a reality for a very long time is when we really launched our virtual remote program. And the interesting thing about launching the virtual remote program was that it had always been a plan of ours, because it creates a ton of different accessibility points. It really does help connect people all over the world. But then for us, the real trick was, how do we create this virtual remote program, which can obviously focus on different types of career training. It can definitely focus on being able to work with a host organization anywhere in the world. But how do we keep that cultural immersion? So that's where we've created a number of different ways in terms of using discussion forums. We program different weekly meetups on Zoom from applicants from all over the world, so they can still really create these networks with different people. And then all of us, we basically went home. And so we also started doing home office, figuring out ourselves, how are we going to keep connecting with each other? So just going through logistics and things like that.
That's interesting. We talk about going home now. And I know, Marianne, you brought this up about the process of unity and sticking together and watching out for each other. At some point, there had to have been, you're dealing with your students and ensuring their safety, but you have to talk about the mental health aspect of it and being connected with your students. How did you handle that? What was your process? Katerina, I'll start with you. Making sure keeping up with your students, making sure they early on from having to deal with all these new processes that are being thrown their way. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that everyone right now is really struggling with in, these virtual working environments. So we have a really wonderful, very committed, experienced team. So one of the things that we do offer in our international program is that 24-hour in-country support. So we really just took that and we had basically virtual community managers who were constantly checking in with the interns, seeing how they were doing, but just offering a lot of that reach out. Whether it was through a WhatsApp message, whether it was jumping on and doing a video call, just seeing how they were doing. If they were already, a lot of our interns, they were in person. So they were having the most difficult transition of going, they'd already planned for an in-office experience. and then they were immediately just moved to a remote experience. So just making sure to like continually check in with them, make sure that they, they're able to like manage these different types of technologies, check in with their host organization supervisor. And then I think all of us, it's great that we also have Jay on the call. I mean, one of the things we also try and do at the intern group is think of ways like, how do we interact with each other in these moments of like, where mental health is really crucial. So is it like, having a team game, or, do we use different types of check-in questions during our meetings? Do we make sure to, meet with people? Our company, we have 14 offices all over the world. So we try and do weekly coffees with different people who are in different time zones, just to also remember to, take a break. I think that we've noticed that like a lot of people are actually putting in more working hours than they were when we were in the office environment, because it's very hard to disconnect now that we're all at home. So finding that time to do that also.
Okay, Marianne, I pose the same question to you.
So from our intern perspective, what we did was have one-on-ones with each intern, to what was noted before, just kind of checking on their overall well-being, seeing how they're doing, how their family, making sure they checked in with their family. I gave interns my personal number and said, if your legal guardians need to talk to me, please, by all means. So just again, jumping in and helping out in any way that we can. So being of service, being of value, and being there for their family was really important. It was also really important that I see them physically. Like I didn't just want to be on the phone, right? So I was like, we have to FaceTime, or we're going to figure out what this new Zoom thing is, or Teams, or whatever this is, right? So we did a lot of one-to-one, where it was myself and also our programs manager. We kind of did a combo. We also have a WhatsApp group with all our interns. So we were checking in, and I would say, hey, how's everybody today? Or I would find an interesting story. I would put the link in there to kind of force them to kind of engage, to make sure they're paying attention and they're okay. We obviously made sure they had masks. We have a board member who's from Home Depot. So she made sure that she got masks to all of the interns in their housing facilities here in Washington, D.C. We also pivoted. We would have normally had these, conversations where we would go meet a member of Congress, or go to meet, an influential nonprofit leader. And instead of doing that, we had to schedule, we quickly tried to schedule them for weekly Zoom meetings to meet the interns. And so we had to teach the interns as well how to network and how to talk to people on Zoom versus going to meet them in the office. So we did a little bit of that. The last two things that we did that I wanted to share, because again, kind of some best practices we can all learn from each other, is we had, which I changed the office hours, so that I would give the staff now an extra hour in the morning. So we changed our office hours to 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with the mandatory lunch break from 12 to 1. I wanted to make sure that everybody really focused on their well-being, and that that was one way to share that we, kind of give people that extra time in the morning to meditate, take an extra time to walk the dog, whatever that you need to do, exercise. The other was, we would normally give all the interns and the staff a subway pass and metro money to get around town. So we cut the metro off, and we gave everyone on the staff and all the interns a membership to Spotify. Wow. So they could download music, they could download podcasts, anything just to make them feel a little more comfy during that time. So those are some of the little things that we did in the beginning, and we're still using now.
Wow. No, those little things go a long way. I want to talk about your recruitment process. You mentioned to me, we were having a phone conversation, that you have 2 students this semester in Chile that are coming in from the Cordoba program. And so how has your recruitment process, has it changed any? Do you see a growth in applications, or have those applications sort of steadily dropped off due to COVID? A lot of students, maybe being fearful of maybe traveling outside of their home.
So one of the things that has come up is that depending on where you live, right, your state, your region, and how it is in whatever phase it is in the COVID-19 process, it's really different. And so as an example, right now we have 2 students from Puerto Rico and from the Córdoba program who are participating in the Washington Center internship program. And so because they're actually here in Washington, D.C., we are able to, I was just with them earlier today. Every Wednesday we meet in the office. We review kind of what we need to do, get some other help, but you know, we're social distance, we have our masks on, we don't spend a lot of time together. Right. It was very interesting because they've shared with me that they were here in January and then they got sent back to Puerto Rico. Wow. And so they had to actually reapply. The program basically said, okay, we figured out what to do. We've made the dorms sanitary. We've got all these other COVID-19 measures in place for their safety. So they were able to come back because they were sponsored by their government in their state in Puerto Rico. And so they were able to do that. Separately, though, our flagship internship program for the Global Leaders Program, we were not able to fly students up this semester because, again, they start the internship with members of Congress. There's no one in the Congress right now. One of the chief of staffs that I work with basically told me, look, Marianne, if you don't have to come and see me, please don't, because I have to physically get out of the building, go get you, walk you through security, and then come back in because it's so restrictive to make sure that there's a lot of safety measures in place. So the interesting part is that there would have been students who really wanted to have a DC experience who are super bummed that it's all virtual. By the same token, Carlos, there's a whole nother group of students that are like, wow, I could still meet some people from Washington, D.C., but I don't have to be there. This is cool. And so we have a mix. So in our particular Global Leaders Program, we have been blessed with, we had actually a lot of applications for this virtual program. And our application process for the spring semester is open now. The deadline is November 1st, and students can go on the website at chli.org and look up the application for the Global Leaders Program. This coming spring will be a virtual program, and it will include the things that I mentioned, weekly, chats with different influential leaders, the Spotify. We're also giving students LinkedIn learning courses that they can take and publish on their LinkedIn profile. So we're just trying to make it a little bit of a richer program to provide different opportunities for the virtual interns. Okay.
Katerina, I'd like to ask you the same question. So how has your recruitment process been since COVID? You talked about how your organization, the intern group, has implemented all of these new technologies and systems in place. So what have you seen an increase or have you seen a decrease in student applications?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've definitely, I would say, a lot of people who are, so we are getting a good amount of applications still. I would say for our international program, there's so many complications to really go abroad and do an international internship, which could include a number of things from borders closing, borders opening, visas, being canceled for a specific internship visa, and then also just having to go through all of the different things of what it means right now to be traveling. So making sure you get everything in terms of safety, that health insurance, those kinds of things. But we are still getting people who are really interested in it. And we are planning programs going into next year, summer, looking at kind of those later start dates when hopefully we'll have a vaccine and we'll all be out of this situation. And then what we've really been focusing on is really opening up our virtual remote opportunities. Because just like it was said, we're actually discovering that we can help more people realize their potential through our virtual remote program. We're able to open up and start reaching out to different markets, to people who might not have thought of doing an international internship or connecting with a host organization in another country, but through the virtual remote environment. So that's what we're also focusing with. I would say our applications, they're lower than what we saw last year, which I think is completely normal given the current situation and just the tricks right now in terms of being able to travel outside of your country. I actually myself, I'm based in Santiago, Chile. So we just came out of a 6-month lockdown. Our borders are still closed. So it's still very difficult just to get in and out of countries. So what we've really been focusing on is our virtual remote program. And of course, we eventually want to go back and, really push our international. Again, it's our bread and butter. It's about. And our virtual program, we have designed it to kind of have these 3 core components. So the first one, of course, is like the virtual remote placement. We have over 3,000 host organization partners, and we have opportunities in more than 25 different career fields. So we really have the opportunity to help people, work with a host organization anywhere in the world. And prior, we really focused on these 14 major cities. And now we've actually started expanding our host organization network. So now we have applicants we have some host organizations in different countries in Africa and India. We're looking at host organizations in Singapore. So it's actually really opened up the different opportunities that our participants can be coming into. And then the second part of our program is our career advancement training. So we also do an 8-module training course that goes through 8 key skills. Some of them are critical thinking, cultural competency, how to be successful in the virtual working environment. And when the applicants do finish and complete that course, they also get a digital badge, and they also get to meet with an alumni success coach to kind of see how to market the experience, how to use it for future job opportunities. And then our third component is also our keynote speaker series. So our keynote speaker series, these are weekly talks. I always say they're kind of like private TED Talks. We have live questions and answers with our speakers. And we feature speakers from across all different career fields. They're leaders within their fields. And it's just a great opportunity to also see, how did people within these very successful positions kind of get to where they were? What tools did they need? How did they have to be adaptable for any other circumstance, especially when thinking about how we are adapting right now in COVID. So, yeah.
So, Katerina, you talked about your organizations, and both you and Marianne are dealing with employers and placing students at different organizations. How do you keep those relationships? I know a lot of organizations, like I said, have shut down. Very early on, I was dealing with a company here locally, and they were looking to set up an internship program. And then all of a sudden, I get a text on my phone from a news source saying that they closed down. And so, there's all those jobs that were lost in this area. So how do you make sure you can maintain those relationships and keep that going and assure them, hey, look, we've got good students that are coming in that can help you where you need them, and let's keep this process going.
Absolutely. And it's so important both for the host organizations and for these potential interns who really want to build these like hands-on skills, right? So what we did, we have 2 different teams who really focus on this. We have our placements team who work directly with the interns and the host organizations, and they're the ones who also manage those relationships. So, when COVID hit and it was very apparent, like, we're not sending anyone overseas at this point, the first thing we did was we reached out to our host organization teams, and we saw, like, how are you guys doing? Do you want to take virtual interns? Like, we do have applicants available. Should we start looking at, kind of moving this opportunity to a remote environment, a remote opportunity? And then we also went through an entire onboarding process with our host organizations of, like, obviously this is very different. You're not going to have someone in the office with you. You're not going to have that personalized kind of like, relationship. So we went through a whole training of like how they can maintain these good relationships through different platforms like Zoom, like Slack or Teams, or just any other form of digital communication. And then we also have what is our host organization team. And that's our partnership team that goes and looks for new opportunities and new host organizations that might also want to be receiving our interns. So apart from like maintaining our already very strong relationships, we're always looking for new opportunities. And again, when virtual and remote came about, what we did was we started expanding all over the globe. Like, where are some places where we can start offering opportunities where we've never traditionally offered them? And I completely feel that with some host organizations, they weren't able to continue taking on interns. And a lot of companies are just going through their own internal struggles right now, especially with the economy the way it is. But those are some of the things we've been doing.
Awesome. Marianne, same question. So how have you been working with your partners, your corporate sponsors, and again, like legislative offices as well?
So part of the key is basically just following up on a regular basis, making sure that they also know what we're doing. So it's kind of a 2-way. It's this is what we're planning on doing. This is what we're thinking is going to work. Especially for this semester, I'm kind of thinking in semesters here, but for this semester, we kind of learned from the spring semester, right? And the spring semester was like, oh my God, everybody's virtual and trying to figure, I mean, we probably used like 3 different platforms before we figured out which one we could use.
Yeah.
And everybody understood. You know, it was very different from getting, you know, somebody emailed me on WhatsApp, but then someone looked me up on Facebook Messenger, and I have, you know, potential hosts on LinkedIn, and it was just even the whole technology piece. But part of it was making sure to follow up with those sponsors, thanking them all the time, both personally via email and also on social media. I think it's also important to thank the companies and the individuals in social media, because everybody's looking at social media now more than they were before, and not just from a personal standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. So we wanted to make sure that we recognize them. The other piece is, once we told them, these are the interns, these are the interns we have available, we went back to the ones who have hosted interns before and said, are you in again? We'd love to have you again. And interesting enough, they said, you know what, we were trying to figure this out the last time, but we got it now. We know what to do. We're going to overnight them the laptop. You know, we know how to incorporate them in the meetings. We got it. So it was great to see that level of commitment. And it was also great to see that they were kind of enjoying it too, because they're learning. And it was definitely a hiccup in the beginning, in the spring semester, but now the latest that I've heard, even from one of the supervisors and sponsors last week, was, you know, we may start doing a combination. You know, once we're done with this, we may have like an in-person internship program, and we may do something that's virtual as well. See, you know, one is because they get more assistance, they get more help as well. The students, there's more students to help. The students get to still interact and network and improve on different skills. So I think in a weird kind of way, it's created an opportunity for some new opportunities that, again, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Right. And, you know, it turns out to be some really good opportunities. The other thing that has come out of it is that we've heard from some of the intern hosts about other companies or other offices that might be interested as well. So that's been pretty cool, is to see that the love is kind of spreading, and we're getting some support from them and inviting other people to consider an intern through Chile.
Right. And so from your experience, how do you see the landscape evolving or shifting into the future? I know you brought up the dual internship programs, right? One in person and one online, because obviously that's going to give students who might not otherwise have the financial backing to travel, they can still stay at home and get that experience. But yeah, just if you could just touch on it. So from your perspective, you know, how do you see internships and the training process going maybe into the future? You know, even if things do get back to normal, do you still see that technology base growing?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be, based on the experience that we've had so far, we are going to be in a situation where we're already considering a virtual program and an in-person program. Some of the elements are going to be core to both. Some of the leadership development, some of the business etiquette that we teach, some of the, you know, speakers bureau type of conversations we have. What we also do in our speakers bureau is every person that is a speaker with the students, one of the students is required to write a story, an article about that speaker, to give them an opportunity to publish an article. So we're also incorporating other things that we normally didn't do when we were in person. So we're looking at both of those opportunities, because we feel that although you don't get the same synergy of being, you know, together in the same room as a cohort, you still have the opportunities to be a cohort. And I think we're going to be learning different skills and enhancing other skills that, again, what we see as an opportunity is creating and training the future leaders to be multifaceted, to be able to handle in-person and virtual environments, because that may be the kind of jobs they might be in later. So we want to use it as an opportunity now to help polish those skills so they're better prepared for whatever job they have afterwards. They can do either or, and they're fine in either environment. And so we're definitely looking at expanding the programs to incorporate both.
Right. And I know I was able to participate because it is virtual this year. The conference that you had, your virtual conference, a couple months back. So I was able to finally sit down and participate and listen to, all of the guest speakers. And that was very informative, from my point of view.
It's also done something else from a level of engagement. So one of the things that's really interesting is that we've all realized the importance of our social networks and our connectedness, right? And so we have alumni across the country, just as I'm sure, the intern group and other internship programs have alumni around the world. And it was very challenging sometimes when we would have some events, or big annual events in Washington, D.C., and not everybody could fly to D.C.
Right.
Well, now we have these virtual alumni association events, and we've had students from China and Ecuador and across the country be able to participate. And it's cool because everybody's participating via virtual, so nobody feels left out. So there's no FOMO to go around. Everyone can participate. It's free. And so it's just more open and more engaging and fun in a different kind of way.
That's awesome. Katerina, I want to bring you in and get your view on how you see the landscape changing for internships going into the future. If you could provide us with some information on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know from us, we're going to continue, going into like a post-COVID world. We want to continue to offer both opportunities, or really like all three of our opportunities of either doing something domestic in your home country, international, and then also virtual remote. And I know it's already been stated, but like the virtual remote program, it opens up so many opportunities. I love what was just said about like there's no FOMO to go around. I think that's awesome. It's one of the great things with the technology. And we are seeing that more and more companies, they're looking at going to a remote work environment. We know that companies are looking for competent remote workers, and that now, people are looking and seeing that they can really open up their global talent pool also. You don't necessarily need to be living in the country where you might be working. You could be working with a company across the seas, which is fantastic. But obviously, it is so beautiful, that experience to get to go out of your country and do that cross-cultural thing, get to see these beautiful places. So we really want to stick and have like these three different opportunities, because the three of them really offer so many different things. And we are seeing like more inclusivity with the virtual remote program. So we're very much behind that. But we also really want to encourage people to step outside of their comfort zones and, go across seas, go meet people from all over the world.
And so we're coming up on time. I know we all have things to do afterwards. So if you could just give us, and Jay, I'd like to include you on this too. If you could just give us a piece of advice that you would give to the students for them moving forward into the future. Like you said, we had this COVID-19 pandemic hit us, but a lot of people have gotten down. You hear a lot of the stories on the news, or if you read them in the newspaper, just something, I guess you say, uplifting to let them know that, hey, there's still opportunities. We're working with these great organizations that are really giving back to students and really helping them in their career and in their training. So I guess, Marianne, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, I wrote down three things that I would recommend college students right now, and also recent college graduates who may also still be looking for some internships or fellowship opportunities. So one is friendships. Make sure you stay connected with each other. Make sure that you're also looking at online networking, that you have a profile on LinkedIn, and really start building your professional online presence, because people are going to be looking at that. Two is finances. It's an opportunity to look at the different opportunities that you may have from a financial standpoint. I know it's kind of hard for everybody, and so I just want to remind everybody that we're all in this together. So to make sure that you're ready to take on any of those student loan opportunities or being able to look at virtual opportunities to save some money, different things like that. And the third and last thing is this is an opportunity to fine tune your writing, fine tune your tech savviness, learn how Teams, Zoom, WebEx work, like look at those different things. Look at polishing and fine tuning your public speaking and how you present in a virtual environment. It's an opportunity to fine tune. It really is an opportunity to learn different skills. And everybody is in this together. So reach out when you need some help. Always reach out when you need some help. None of us have been here by ourselves. None of us are going to get through this by ourselves either. So I'm going to end that circle with make new friends and keep the friends you have.
Yes, good advice. Katerina.
Sorry, I'm just getting my mute off. Yeah, I just want to say I've gotten to speak to so many wonderful students, and I just want to say, like, this is a very hard time for you to be graduating, to be going out into the workplace. But I will just say that, like, out of every crisis we've ever had in the world, there is always opportunity, and there's always room for you to do self-reflection and to grow. And whether that means that you go ahead and you do an internship or you do a remote placement, or maybe you want to develop a new personal skill, maybe you want to learn a new language, maybe you want to volunteer. I would say this is that downtime that we so rarely get in life, that you can really take some time to reflect and think about what is really going to be good for your personal and professional development right now. Wow. There are so many opportunities. And yeah, take the time, find ways to connect with each other, and really also find ways just to, worry about your mental health, whether that's doing yoga, meditation, going and doing some running. But that time also just for you is really important. I'll just say that.
Jay, you have any advice you'd like to give us or pass along?
Yeah, just basically building on what was already said. So building your networks and taking your opportunities. So in terms of building your networks, I think there's a lot of opportunity out there to do that. We provide that at the intern group, opportunities to meet other like-minded individuals, as well as the people you'd be working with through your host organization. But then also there's other resources such as LinkedIn you can use to meet other people and build your resources. And you can use LinkedIn to learn from experts. You can, add Bill Gates, and he publishes articles all the time. And so you can use those to help you to grow and to develop. And then in terms of taking the opportunities, that really is what growth is about, right? Is taking the opportunities that are presented to you. So as there are opportunities being presented to you, they are different opportunities in these times. They are a little bit more difficult, but there absolutely are opportunities being presented. So I want to encourage anyone listening to take those opportunities, to see them as opportunities, and to use that to grow and to develop.
Awesome. I want to thank all of our speakers today. I want to thank Katerina and Jay and Ms. Gomez Orta. Thank you so much for participating in today's roundtable discussion. Look forward to maybe having another one of these in the spring. And so hopefully we can have some more advice and more experience coming in, and hopefully things will change. We'll start to see people back in offices and being face-to-face, and we'll talk about that transition, if it comes. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And thank you again. I can't say that enough. But have a great day, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Nice meeting everyone.